Hello all YouTubers, I'm the Weather Dude. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning back into this Hurricane Laura coverage for August 25th, 2020. Before we get on with today's video, however, it would be really awesome if you guys did hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much, by the way, for 900 subscribers. We're almost there. We're less than 100 away from the big ultimate goal of 1,000 subscribers. So please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, as well as ring the bell notification so you don't miss my next upload. Also, watching the whole video because getting to the goal of 1,000 subscribers and monetization, we're getting very close. And you guys watching the whole video will help the Weather Dude's channel out a lot. So please consider watching the whole video as well. Please do. And also like and share this video with your friends. Thank you. Now let's get on with today's video. And today we are tracking Hurricane Laura and why it is now likely. Now I talked about in the last coverage video that the Hurricane Center was calling for it to be a Cat 2, and I was saying it could be a Cat 3 because of the environment it's in. And now the National Hurricane Center is projecting a Category 3 storm here. And Hurricane Laura does have sustained winds of 75 miles an hour now, so it does have hurricane sustained winds. But the hurricane wind field isn't too large, but it's still more or less a hurricane. But the tropical storm wind field does go a good bit out from the center, okay? It's a pretty big tropical storm wind field, not a big hurricane wind field because this was just named a hurricane. It is still moving west-northwest, not really making a northwest turn yet, but it is moving still in a westerly direction at 16 miles an hour. And the longer it stays in the Gulf of Mexico, the more of a southerly trek it takes before it cuts north, the more time it's going to spend in warm water, and be going through the environmental conditions as well, and the more time this storm could get itself together. And by Wednesday evening, that's when we can see that major hurricane. And there are hurricane warnings as well as storm surge warnings for basically Galveston through Lake Charles or south of Lake Charles, Louisiana. But here's the interesting part, though. All right, and hopefully I'll be tracking Laura after landfall as well, because after it makes landfall, it does fade into a depression. But look at this. It becomes, I'll show you a map in a little bit too. It regains, it's technically a post-tropical storm, but it still regains tropical storm force winds off the mid-Atlantic coast. So interest from, should be monitoring it as well from Virginia up through Massachusetts. All right, but we're going to be talking about the more important part, the major hurricane that will be striking Texas and Louisiana Wednesday. Now, the probability of tropical storm force winds, obviously we know, is well past 90%, but this map is more so showing you the earliest reasonable arrival time. And that could be middle of the day Wednesday, like right about between 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. for the Texas, Louisiana coastline. And this is assuming that you do get the tropical storm force winds. Obviously, in this red and purple region, you have the highest threat to see tropical storm force winds. But anywhere from Mississippi, the Mississippi coastline, or even just Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas all have a threat to see tropical storm force winds. All right, and here's where the threat reforms off the mid-Atlantic coastline. There was actually upwards of 20-25% chance to see tropical storm force winds from North Carolina through Long Island. So again, should monitor a storm up there as well. But like I said, we'll be focusing on the Texas, Louisiana threat today. Okay, but again, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. is going to be your earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds on Wednesday. Now, exactly how strong is this storm going to get? That's why I'm showing you this map. So, first of all, this turquoise wind field, that's how far the tropical storm force winds go from the center. This greenish region here is how far the, let me actually close out of that. That's how far the 58 mile an hour winds go from the center, which is that greenish color. Yeah, 50 knots. So that's how far out the 58 mile an hour winds go. That's like we'll classify as a mid-level tropical storm. And then the orange here is how far the hurricane force winds go from the center. And kind of notice the placement. It's kind of like how Marco looked a little bit, where it's kind of little, it's on the northeast quadrant, which is how a storm should look. All right, but it's a little displaced because it would also be on the northern side as well. So if we see those hurricane force winds go to the northern side of the storm as well, that would really mean it's starting to get attacked together. So by 8 p.m. on the 26th, 115 mile an hour sustained winds, but gusts will go to 140. Okay, and that's why the storm surge values are going to be really significant for a category. Usually Category 3, we have 9 to 12 feet of surge. We're predicting up to 13 feet. I think there could even be some 14-foot surge values as well. Again, the surge depends on two things: the wind strength and how long the storm is lasting. How long does the storm, sit at the coast? Luckily, this isn't going to sit and stall. All right, and while that's a good thing, that's also a bad thing for inland locations because When it's moving faster after it makes landfall, that means it gives it less time for it to weaken. For example, this storm could still be a strong tropical storm even as it enters Arkansas. All right, it might not even weaken to a depression until it passes north of Little Rock. All right, so that means the wind threats could be carried inland, but that does mean the rainfall totals will be reduced a little bit. But on the other hand, yet again, we will still see rainfall, heavy rainfall in a short amount of time. So here's your storm surge warnings and hurricane warnings in this region here, and even the storm surge warnings go a little bit farther east towards Grand Isle, which were just hit by Tropical Storm Marco, or formerly Hurricane Marco. And we also have our storm surge watches from Gulfport and Biloxi through New Orleans here and the eastern shore of Louisiana. But Galveston, not Houston yet, but eastern part of Harris County, but Houston, or Galveston, I should say, is under a storm surge warning and a hurricane warning. All right, so some key messages. All right, this is going to enter the northwestern Gulf, all right, Wednesday night, and near or even at major hurricane intensity. All right, don't focus on the center track. I know that's a bad habit with a lot of people. Focus outside the cone, whether it's just west or just east of the cone. You got to focus. You got to look outside the box, look outside the cone here, because that's where the threat will be as well. Danger for life-threatening storm surge. Again, storm surge warnings in effect. Hurricane conditions are expected by Wednesday evening. Like I said, the tropical storm force winds may arrive several hours before that, so you definitely have to be prepared by the time the tropical storm force winds arrive. All right, and widespread urban flooding and coastal flooding. All right, you're gonna have 12 plus feet of water coming from the ocean if you live in like Texas, Louisiana, or especially the western shore, Louisiana, like the southern shore. 13 feet of surge is possible so far, and then you're gonna tack on over 8 inches of freshwater rainfall, and it's not gonna be good. All right. Like I said, in terms of the rainfall, the only saving grace that the storm is actually booking. Not as fast as Isaias was, but it's booking, okay? So that does reduce the rainfall threat, but that doesn't mean we can't get a lot of rainfall, especially if a lot falls at once. So here's your storm surge warnings from Galveston Bay here through Beaumont, Lake Charles, and look how far, that's another thing too. Look how far inland these storm surge warnings go, okay? Now, I'm not saying that the water from the ocean is going to go all the way inland. Yes, that can happen, but it's going to happen because of these inlets. It's going to be carried up through the rivers and then dispersed out. That's why the storm surge warnings go so far inland. All right, again, so it's the eastern part of Harris County. Again, Texas City, Galveston Bay, Beaumont, Lake Charles, just south of Lafayette. Then Morgan City, for some reason, you're like your city is highlighted under a storm surge watch, like within that warning. So that's pretty weird. All right, but and then down through Huma, Grand Isle. Then you got your storm surge watches from Biloxi, Gulfport, Sidell here, and then for the eastern shore of Louisiana, including Lake Pontchartrain, where New Orleans is. Right? Again, storm surge, this was at 7 to 11 feet. Now that they're predicting Category 3 hurricane, they kind of upped the surge to 9 to 13 feet. Me personally, the surge value, okay, from Sea Rim State Park through Intracoastal City, I would make it 10 to 14 feet. They might raise it a little bit more because the storm does have the potential to rapidly intensify overnight. All right, this evening overnight, and might be thinking, well, why do you might be hearing that hurricane? You always wake up the next morning, it's like the hurricane is so much stronger. Well, overnight, the atmosphere actually does cool, and that increases instability in the atmosphere. That helps the thunderstorms grow taller, and the hurricane can start spinning more. So that's why hurricanes can strengthen overnight. But even from Freeport through St. Louis Pass, between Freeport and St. Louis Pass, still 2 to 4 feet of surge. And between St. Louis Pass and Fort Bolivar, still 3 to 5 feet of surge. Okay, so the surge extends well out from where the center makes landfall. All right, and even Galveston Bay itself, west of the landfall, can still see 3 to 5 feet of surge. All right, and then once you get east of Sea Rim State Park, that's where the real surge kicks in, 9 to 13 feet. Like I said, Lake Pontchartrain, still 2 to 4 feet maybe. And Lake Pontchartrain does flood pretty easily. All right, so let's take a look at the rainfall now from Hurricane Laura. All right, and as you can see, not much has changed in terms of where the rainfall is going to set up. I think they might have tacked it over to the east, but the models are also showing a small track to the west again. All right, but from the Bow River and the Texas-Louisiana border here, right around Lake Charles, 6 to 10 inches of rainfall. But notice, this extends inland. We have some patchy spots of 6 to 10 inches of rain just north of Little Rock. All right, but even well outside of that, we have a widespread threat from Kentucky and western Tennessee, like Memphis, down the western edge of the western part of Arkansas, and then the Texas-Louisiana border. Still, at least 4 to 6 inches of rainfall is going to cause a lot of problems. And even well outside of that, we still have 2 to 4 inches of rainfall extending all the way up through northern Missouri and central Illinois. So a big weather threat, okay, a big rainfall threat from this storm, because it's going to track so far inland. And looking at the greatest flash flood risk, okay, here it is from extreme southeastern Oklahoma and western parts of Arkansas down the Texas and Louisiana border down to the coast here. That's right for greatest flash flood risk. All right, so let's take a look at the aircraft reconnaissance. This is kind of their latest flight. The 18th flight, I will check in a bit, but I'm pretty sure the flight is still en route. Maybe they started flying into the storm, but this is the mission before that. This is the latest mission that is actually completed, and we actually have data from. As you can see, they quite a few times have picked up some hurricane force winds. You might be thinking, well, that's at flight level because they know they fly, somewhat high in the atmosphere. Well, we'll be showing you the surface winds that they picked up as well. I've just kind of proved to you guys. Pressure 991 millibars is what they found. I'm seeing that it's starting to get a little bit better organized. We're starting to see a little bit of spin. So I think the 5 o'clock update, we could see the winds go up to between 80 and 85 miles an hour in the latest update. So when we take a look at the aircraft recon, and this is where they picked up surface wind values of just over 70 knots. All right, as you can see, the blue and the red lines kind of merge, so it might be a little bit confusing. All right, so this is kind of like your surface wind speed. That's kind of like what SFMR is, and this is like your surface wind speed. And as you can see, they picked up where the blue and red dots meet right there. That's about 72 knots, which is closing in on 85 miles an hour. So don't be surprised if in the next update they pick up 80 to 85 miles an hour winds. But again, this was also done at 10:30, between 10:20 and 10:45 in the morning. So I'm surprised it didn't feed us into the 11 a.m. or 2 p.m. updates. All right, but maybe they will. All right, because if they picked up surface winds of that speed, then I think that's definitely something to consider throwing in there. But MSLP pressure, the MSLP, which is the pressure, the red line there, I'm not changing too much, still around 992 or so. I mean, not really changing much there, but the wind speeds are trying to go up. All right, I did look at the aircraft reconnaissance. On the latest, the 18th mission, they made one pass through the storm, but they haven't made enough passes to gather really a lot of data yet. So hopefully we'll be checking back in the end of the video. Maybe they've done some more flying by then. So here is the Sst Anomalies here. And as I've been trying to wean off CDATs because I've heard that they do have a cold bias. I still will be trying to use them occasionally, but I've been let's just say growing closer. I've been liking to use this map a lot more. This is the NOAA Coral Reef watch, just like the Sst Anomalies here from like the NOAA. And as you can see, here's kind of like where Laura is now, and here's where it's about to track through right here. All right, so it's tracking through these darker orange waters. The water's already warmer. Usually the water in the Western Gulf is actually, in the Southwestern Gulf is actually warmer. All right, so it's like that anyway. So if the water is warmer than average still, that just kind of makes it like a double barrel threat. And when you look at the actual ocean water temperatures, Laura will be tracking through this. So keep in mind, Laura will be tracking right up this way. So right through the area of warmest water, probably well above 30 degrees Celsius. All right, probably actually around 31.5 degrees Celsius, and that's closing in on 90 degrees in terms of our ocean water temperatures. Here is the HWRF model. Before I do that, however, I was having a little trouble getting the infrared, the colored satellite imagery, but I was able to get the visible satellite loaded up very fast. So I wanted to take a look at the visible satellite and take a look at this. I was telling you guys how I was starting to get the storms are starting to spin. We got some convection brewing up on that southeastern side. We've even got some convection on the north side as well. All right, but look at the eye that we're starting to see. It's starting to form, okay? It's getting there, all right? This is good looking for a Category 1 hurricane. And notice it's kind of starting to eat up a little bit of. We're starting to see some outflow boundaries. Let's put it that way. We got some good outflow coming out of this thing. All right. It looks like it might be eating up a little bit of dry air, but I think that's actually just cloud cover there. It's not battling any dry air. Wind shear values are very low. All right, but you can just see the outflow that's coming out of this. It looks very healthy here, and it's sitting in a very good environment to develop, which is obviously good for the storm developing. Now take a look at the HWRF model. As you can see, Laura does have, according to them, at 2 p.m. pressure of 983 millibars. This is a good intensity model. I think they did go a little bit overboard, but I think this is actually it's actually a reasonable estimate. Although the pressure is actually, I think, currently around 990 millibars. So taking a look at this here, you can see rainfall rates. Look at just like how I told you, we were starting to see a lot of brewing convection on the east and southeast side. Well, you can see it on here, all right? Right there in that pink area, 60 millimeters of rain an hour. Look at the satellite imagery. Right there, we're starting to see a lot of convection blossom, All right. Hopefully you can tell by the powdery white. All right. Well, the HWRF model really depicts that clearly. And there's the rainfall rate right now. They're saying is over 2.5 inches of rain per hour, which is insane. All right. So then the system really gains even more strength. Tons of rainfall around the entire thing, not just in northern northeastern Iowa, around the entire storm now. All right. So that's how big the storm could get. All right. And notice, okay, we could be seeing bands go well south of the storm, and we even some showers over here. So band showers and thunderstorms could extend well outside the storm. But after this makes landfall, it will be battling a lot of shear unless it starts to go away. Because right now, like just where the storm makes landfall, there's a lot of shear. All right, so the storm will be very strong when it makes landfall, but after that, it might start to weaken a little bit. All right, so here's where up to landfall. This is around 950 millibars of pressure here. You got your very heavy rain on the northeast side, probably over 55 millimeters of rain per hour at least. All right, then it comes on shore, and then right around, they predict around maybe around 2 a.m. on Thursday, which is interesting because we were talking about Wednesday evening, so they have it moving a little bit slower. Therefore, the HWRF model does have it gaining a lot more strength. And still, look at this: yellows and oranges and reds still well inland here. Okay, through Oklahoma, through Arkansas, and let's see exactly where they track it after that. All right, through Missouri, and look at this heavy, very heavy rainfall that these bands that you start to see develop. Still 1,000 millibars of pressure, which is very reasonable. All right, still good. And then look at this, comes right off of the Mid-Atlantic coastline with 990 millibars of pressure. I'm curious to see what the wind speeds are for that. We'll take a look at that. All right, but we'll be taking, like, after Laura makes landfall, we'll be focusing on the eastern United States. If Laura does happen to last until then, if it happens to regain to a tropical storm by then. But for now, again, focusing on Texas, Louisiana. As you can see, this storm could be getting to 95 knots, okay, as early, maybe as 5 a.m. on Wednesday. All right, so we're talking about potentially, again, rapid strengthening, rapid intensification today, possibly. All right, 95 knots. Okay, let's see, that's about 110 miles an hour, which is basically just about a Category 2 when you wake up on Wednesday, okay? Actually, well, most people wake up on 8 a.m. So 8 a.m. Wednesday, we're talking about 108 knots of wind, okay, in the 8 a.m. on Wednesday, which is 125 mile an hour Category 3 already. And it's still it's far away from land. All right, look at this. They're calling for its strongest point. I think, yeah, 113, okay, 0.3 knots. All right, which is that's actually that's a borderline category. That's Category 4 actually, 130 miles an hour. All right, then it comes on shore, and you can see now the good news with this model is that once the storm comes on shore, it loses its strength dramatically. Then we see the winds, like as soon as it starts to make its way, say 50 miles inland, it's already down to a 70 mile an hour tropical storm. It's on a borderline Cat 1 hurricane at 5 a.m. on Thursday is what they're saying. All right, then it moves through. There's really nothing left of it. Now maybe some 35 mile an hour winds. All right, then it moves off the Mid-Atlantic coastline. Then it starts to get its act together a little bit. Maybe some more 60 mile an hour sustained winds off the coast. So we'll see about that. Like I said, that'll be discussed at a later date. So take a look at the cyclonic vorticity signature. You can see just how, like, normally the whole thing would be filled with red, but this storm is so organized by this point that there's not as much vorticities in the middle, but all around it. All right, and that's because that's the eye in the middle. All right, that's how you can tell this thing is really organized. You got your outflow, you got your banding features setting up. Again, with a landfall coming in maybe 2 a.m. Thursday, and still a decent amount of energy. All right, could be coming into the Mid-Atlantic off the coast, and that's by next Sunday. All right, and how about the GFS model? We take a look at the GFS and the NAM models. Here's a GFS landfall here, very, very heavy rainfall. All right, and here's this big red blob with some magentas. But look at this, it goes all the way inland too. And by the way, they're calling for a landfall. Yeah, they're actually calling for a landfall at about 2 to 4 a.m. on Thursday. So a little bit slower of a moving system. That's not good. This increases the rainfall a little bit. It's also make the wind and the surge last a little bit longer because we were predicting. Actually, I shouldn't say that because the storm will be moving pretty fast. But what I'm trying to say is that it'll take longer to get there, so it could be even stronger upon landfall. Is what I'm trying to say. All right. Then the heavy rainfall continues to go inland, and they have it going through, crossing into Canada. All right, so they don't even take it to the Mid-Atlantic like the HWRF did. Now, take a look at the wind speeds here. All right, they actually don't keep it quite as strong as they used to. All right, they have it going to about 85 knots, maybe well over 100 miles an hour. Okay, all right, by 8 p.m. on Tuesday, and then at landfall, don't get me wrong, still a very strong storm, but 95 knots of wind. They're talking about a Cat 2 at landfall. All right, then it just loses its strength, and obviously they don't follow it very well on the wind map. All right, but there's a storm. It's still right there. All right, and this is after landfall. You can see at landfall and after landfall, it completely falls apart because of the shear, possibly. So that's the GFS model, and look at the NAM. All right, you won't be able to see the wind too well because the NAM only goes up. The wind values only go up to a certain, go up to a certain point. You'll be able to see it. I mean, here's like a little backdoor front. That's a severe weather threat. The Mid-Atlantic's actually under a big severe weather threat for today. All right, but look at this. Look at Laura. All right, they're calling for, oh my goodness, the NAM 3KM model is calling for 899 millibars of pressure. Okay, even some of the strongest Category 5s I've seen, I know storms have, long ago, had gotten below 900 millibars, but even some of the strongest Cat 5s, okay, can barely get that strong. All right, so 899 millibars NAM model, you're definitely overdoing it. All right, they're making this like a very, very intense Category 5. Look at this, 895, 893. Okay, I think the NAM model's a little insane. 887 millibars of pressure. That is like one of the lowest pressure storms in history if that were to happen. All right, but then they have it making landfall. Don't focus on the pressure, focus on the rainfall. All right, then it moves inland. All right, right up the Texas Louisiana borderline. Then moves up through Oklahoma and Arkansas. But the pressure, I think wind speed are acting a little crazy. So that's right. Hurricane Wilma, I remember they had, I think the pressure was down to 883 or between 881 around 882 millibars was the lowest pressure for a hurricane. And let's say they're right. That's 887, which is pretty close. But I don't think it'll get that strong. Nice try, NAM model. But that's very interesting if it does get that strong. That's a very intense Cat 5. Look at the wind speeds here. All right, this only goes up to 84 knots, but I'm sure they're predicting well beyond that. You can see black in the middle. That's how strong the winds are. All right, then once it goes inland, still, look at this. We're talking about a strong tropical storm well inland here. All right, making landfall most likely as a Category 3, then going up the Texas-Louisiana border again. So thank you guys for watching today's video. Please stay safe, stay alert, stay vigilant, and keep it here to the Weather Dude for updates. All right, and this is your time to prepare. All right, hopefully you're preparing yesterday. Hopefully you're getting done your preparations today because mid-morning tomorrow through early afternoon, Texas-Louisiana coastline, on Wednesday, we're going to start to see, all right, some of those hurricane force winds. So that is tomorrow. Wednesday is tomorrow. So tomorrow mid-morning, early afternoon, hurricane force winds and tropical storm force winds will start to arrive. So hopefully you guys are prepared if you are in the path of the storm. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am the Weather Dude, signing off till next time. Please don't forget to subscribe. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.